first thing David said to me when he packed his bags was that I tasted like plain water. He said he needed champagne. He said being married to me was like sitting in a quiet room with the lights turned off. He called me boring. He called me predictable. Then he signed the divorce papers, left our tiny apartment, and walked right into the arms of a 22-year-old fitness influencer. Exactly 2 years later, David saw me again. It was at the most exclusive charity gala in Manhattan. He was standing by the buffet, trying to look like he belonged. I walked past him. I was wearing a diamond necklace worth more than his entire life savings, and my hand was resting firmly on the arm of Nikolai Volkov, a man whose name made billionaires tremble and mafia bosses bow their heads. When David looked up and met my eyes, he literally choked on his wine. He coughed. His face turned bright purple, and he realized too late that the boring woman he threw away was now completely untouchable. Before we get into how a quiet, discarded housewife ended up on the arm of the city's most dangerous man, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow so we can keep bringing you stories just like this one. And do me a quick favor. Drop a comment down below and let me know where in the world you are watching this video from. I love reading your comments. Now let's begin the story. My name is Anna. For 5 years, my life revolved around a man named David. David was an ambitious corporate accountant. He wanted to climb the social ladder. He wanted to look rich. He wanted to be noticed. I, on the other hand, loved peace. I loved our quiet home. I grew up in a small town with my grandmother. She taught me that true happiness does not make a lot of noise. It is found in a warm cup of tea. It is found in a clean house. It is found in a reliable routine. So, I built a reliable routine for David. Every single morning, I woke up at 5 o'clock. I ironed his shirts until there was not a single wrinkle. I made him a hot breakfast. I packed his lunch in neat little glass containers. I always folded his napkins into perfect triangles. When he came home, the house smelled like roasted chicken or fresh pasta. His slippers were by the door. His favorite television show was already turned on. I thought I was being a good wife. I thought this was what love looked like. But David did not see love. He saw a servant. He saw a habit. On our 5th wedding anniversary, I cooked a beautiful steak dinner. I bought a nice bottle of wine. I even wore a soft pink dress instead of my usual oversized sweaters. I sat at the table, waiting for him. The clock ticked. 7 o'clock turned into 8. 8 o'clock turned into 9. Finally, at 10 o'clock, the front door opened. David walked in. He did not look tired. He looked wired. His eyes were bright, and his tie was loosened. He smelled like expensive cologne and sweet, fruity perfume. It was not my perfume. He did not look at the steak. He did not look at the wine. He looked straight at me. "We need to talk, Anna," he said. His voice was cold. It lacked any warmth. I stood up, smiling faintly. "Happy anniversary, David. Are you hungry? I can reheat the—" "I want a divorce," he interrupted. The words hit me like a physical blow. I froze. The room felt suddenly very cold. A divorce? Why? Did I do something wrong? David groaned. He rubbed his face with his hands. He looked annoyed, as if I was bothering him with a silly question. "You never do anything wrong, Anna," he sighed. "That is the exact problem. You are perfect. Perfect and completely, utterly boring." I could not breathe. "Boring?" "Yes," he said, stepping into the living room and looking around with disgust. "Look at this apartment. It looks like a retirement home. Look at how you dress. Look at your hair. You have had the same haircut since I met you. You cook the same 7 meals every single week. We never go out to clubs. We never party. You do not even drink." "I thought you liked my cooking," I whispered. My voice shook. "I thought you liked coming home to a quiet house." "I used to," David said. He crossed his arms. "But I am moving up in the world now. I am about to get a promotion to senior partner. I need a woman who is spark. I need a woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. You do not turn heads, Anna. You blend into the wallpaper. Being with you is like drinking plain tap water. It keeps me alive, but it gives me absolutely no excitement. I need excitement." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. He slid it across the kitchen counter. It was already signed by him. "I am leaving the apartment to you," he said. "The lease is up in 3 months anyway. You can keep the furniture. I already took my things this morning while you were grocery shopping." He had planned it. He had waited until I was out buying his favorite vegetables to pack his bags. "Is there someone else?" I asked. My heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. David did not even deny it. A proud, smug smile crept onto his face. "Her name is Amber. She's a fitness model and an influencer. She has 50,000 followers on Instagram. She has energy, Anna. She makes me feel alive. When I am with her, people look at us." He walked to the door. He picked up his briefcase. He did not look back. "Sign the papers, Anna. Do not make this difficult. You are a nice girl, but you are just not meant for the big leagues." The door clicked shut. I stood alone in my pink dress. The steak on the table grew cold. The candles burned down to nothing. I did not cry. I was too numb to cry. I just sat down in the silence that he hated so much. The next morning, I signed the papers. I sent them to his lawyer. Our marriage was over. Just like that. For the first month after the divorce, I was a ghost. I went to my job at a local botanical garden. I took care of the flowers. Plants were simple. If you give them water and sunlight, they do not leave you. They do not call you boring. But my lease was running out. I could not afford the apartment on my small salary. I needed a new job. I needed more money. One afternoon, an old friend from college named Lily called me. She had heard about the divorce. "Anna, you need a fresh start," Lily said over the phone. And I know just the thing. My uncle owns a luxury concierge and estate management firm. They handle the properties of ultra-wealthy people. They need an executive house manager for a massive estate in the city. The pay is triple what you make now. I hesitated. "Lily, I just look after a small apartment. I do not know how to manage a luxury estate." "Are you kidding?" Lily laughed. "You are the most organized person I know. You notice every little detail. You know exactly how to run a household perfectly. That is exactly what these rich, busy people need. Please, just go for the interview." I looked at my bank account. I had no choice. I went to the interview. The interview was not held in an office. It was held at a massive penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park. The building had armed security guards in the lobby. The elevator required a private key card. When the elevator doors opened into the penthouse, I held my breath. It was beautiful, but it was cold. It was filled with modern art, black marble, and glass. It looked like a museum, not a home. The man sitting behind a massive desk was not Lily's uncle. It was a man named Mr. Volkov. When I first saw Nikolai Volkov, my breath caught in my throat. He was tall, with broad shoulders and dark hair that had silver streaks at the temples. He looked to be in his late 30s. He wore a custom-tailored dark suit. His eyes were a piercing, icy blue. He had a faint scar running along his jawline. He looked incredibly handsome, but he also looked incredibly dangerous. There was an aura around him. It was an aura of absolute power. He did not look up from his tablet when I walked in. "Sit down," he said. His voice was a deep, gravelly baritone. It sent a shiver down my spine. I sat quietly. I did not fidget. I did not smooth my skirt. I just sat with my hands folded in my lap, waiting. After a full minute of silence, Nikolai looked up. His sharp blue eyes locked onto mine. He seemed surprised by my calmness. Most people probably shook with fear in front of him. "You are Anna," he stated. "Yes, Mr. Volkov," I replied softly. "Your resume says you worked at a botanical garden. It says you have no experience managing a property of this size. This penthouse is 20,000 square feet. I have 3 other estates in the country. I need someone to oversee the staff, handle the budgeting, manage the chefs, and ensure my life runs without a single glitch. Why should I hire a gardener?" I took a deep breath. I thought about David calling me boring. I thought about how my attention to detail was a flaw to him. "Mr. Volkov," I said, looking him dead in the eye, "a botanical garden requires patience. It requires noticing the smallest change in an environment before it becomes a disaster. A dying leaf means the soil is wrong. A drooping stem means the water is low. A luxury home is the same. I notice everything. I know how to make a space feel seamless. You are a very busy man. You should never have to ask for fresh coffee. It should just be there. You should never have to worry if your clothes are cleaned. They should just appear in your closet. I do not bring drama. I bring absolute order and peace." Nikolai stared at me. The silence stretched for so long that I thought I had failed. Then a tiny, amused smirk appeared on the corner of his lips. "Absolute order and peace," he repeated. "A rare commodity in my world. Tell me, Anna, do you scare easily?" "No, sir," I said honestly. "I have already survived the worst thing that could happen to me." He nodded once. "The job is yours. You start tomorrow. Your salary will be 4 times your current rate. But let me make one thing clear, Anna. I value privacy above all else. Do not ask questions about my guests. Do not ask questions about my business. Do not look into rooms that are locked. Do your job, and you will be taken care of. Fail me, and you will be out on the street within 5 minutes." "Understood," I said. Working for Nikolai Volkov was a masterclass in discipline. I quickly realized that he was not just a regular wealthy businessman. The people who visited the penthouse late at night did not look like corporate executives. They were large men with tattoos. They were men with hard eyes who spoke in quiet, hushed whispers. Sometimes I saw flickers of guns beneath their heavy jackets. It did not take a genius to figure out what Nikolai was. He was a major figure in the city's criminal underworld. He was a mafia boss. But remember, I was boring, Anna. I did not get curious. I did not snoop. I did what I was paid to do. I organized the entire penthouse. I fired the old cleaning staff, who were lazy, and hired meticulous, professional people. I learned Nikolai's exact routine. He liked his coffee black, brewed from a specific bean from Ethiopia, served at precisely 6:30 in the morning. He liked his steaks rare. He liked his environment completely quiet when he was working. I made sure his life was perfect. Months passed. Nikolai barely spoke to me, but he noticed everything. One evening, he came home very late. It was nearly 3 in the morning. I was still up, organizing the wine culinary inventory in the kitchen. When the private elevator opened, Nikolai stumbled out. He was clutching his side. His white shirt was stained with a deep, dark red. Blood. I gasped softly, but quickly caught myself. I ran over to him. He was pale, sweating, and leaning heavily against the wall. "Don't call an ambulance," he groaned, his voice weak. "My private doctor. He is not answering. Just get me to the sofa." I did not panic. I did not scream. My grandmother had been a nurse, and she had taught me how to handle emergencies. I put his heavy arm over my shoulders. Despite his size, I managed to guide him to the large leather sofa. I ran to the master bathroom and fetched the heavy medical kit I had put there on my first day. I cut away his expensive shirt. There was a deep graze along his ribs. It was a bullet wound. It was bleeding heavily, but the bullet had not stayed inside. "You're going to be okay," I said, my voice steady and calm. "The bullet passed through. It just needs to be cleaned and stitched." Nikolai looked up at me through hooded, pained eyes. You aren't running away." "I have a job to do, Mr. Volkov," I said. "I got to work." I cleaned the wound with antiseptic. I did not flinch when he hissed in pain. My hands were completely steady as I took out the medical needle and thread. I had mended countless pieces of clothing, and stitching skin was not so different. I kept my movements precise. I closed the wound with neat, perfect stitches. Then, I bandaged his side tightly. When I was finished, I wiped the sweat from his forehead with a cool cloth. I brought him a glass of water and 2 painkillers. Nikolai lay back on the sofa, breathing heavily. He stared at me as if he were seeing me for the very first time. "Who are you, Anna?" he murmured. Any other woman would be screaming. Any other woman would have called the police or run out the door. "I am just your house manager, sir," I said, cleaning up the bloody gauze. "And your house needs to be kept clean. Please rest. I will watch over you tonight." I sat in the armchair opposite the sofa. I did not sleep. Every hour, I checked his temperature. I made sure his bandage was not bleeding through. When the sun rose, Nikolai woke up. His color was better. He sat up slowly, testing his side. He looked at me, still sitting in the chair, alert and ready. You stayed, he said. Of course, I replied. I will make your coffee now. From that night on, everything changed. Nikolai no longer treated me like an employee. He started inviting me to have breakfast with him. At first, I refused, stating it was unprofessional. But he insisted. Anna, he said one morning, smiling warmly, you saved my life. The least you can do is eat a croissant with me. We started talking. I told him about my quiet childhood. I told him about my love for plants. And eventually, I told him about David. I told him how David had left me because I was too plain, too quiet, and too boring. Nikolai stopped eating. His face darkened. The air in the room grew heavy. He called you boring? Nikolai asked, his voice dangerously low. Yes, I said, looking down at my hands. He said I was like plain water. Nikolai let out a short, dark laugh. He reached across the table and placed his large, warm hand over mine. His touch sent a strange spark through my body. Then your ex-husband is a fool, Nikolai said softly. Men like him want loud, cheap glass because it sparkles in the sun. They do not know how to appreciate a diamond. A diamond does not shout. It is quiet. It is strong. It cannot be broken. You are a diamond, Anna. You have a piece inside you that men kill for. In my world, everything is loud. Everything is violent. Everything is fake. When I come home to you, the world stops spinning. That is not boring. That is power. My heart fluttered. No one had ever spoken to me like that. No one had ever seen my quietness as a strength. Over the next year, our relationship shifted. It was a slow, beautiful burn. Nikolai did not rush me. He courted me with absolute respect. He brought me rare, exotic plants for the penthouse balcony. He listened to me. He protected me. And slowly, I fell in love with him. I fell in love with the fierce protector hidden behind the Mafia boss exterior. He was a dangerous man to the world, but to me, he was a shield. I also began to change, not because Nikolai asked me to, but because I finally felt safe enough to bloom. I started dressing differently. I stopped hiding behind oversized clothes. I bought elegant, well-fitted dresses. I grew my hair long, styling it in soft, sophisticated waves. I learned how to carry myself with the confidence of a woman who was loved by a king. I was still the same calm, organized Anna, but now I had a fire burning inside me. One evening, Nikolai came into my quarters. He was holding a large, black velvet box. There's a major charity gala tomorrow night, Nikolai said. It is the biggest event of the year. Every politician, billionaire, and high society family will be there. I want you to go with me, Anna. Not as my house manager, as my woman. He opened the box. Inside was a breathtaking diamond necklace. The stones caught the light, dancing with a brilliant, blinding fire. It is time the world sees my diamond, Nikolai whispered, placing his hands on my shoulders. I looked at the necklace, and then I looked at him. I would be honored, Nikolai. The night of the gala arrived. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was a sea of luxury. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceilings. Women in designer gowns and men in expensive tuxedos sipped champagne. I walked into the ballroom on Nikolai's arm. I was wearing a floor-length, backless emerald green silk gown. It fitted my curves perfectly. The diamond necklace rested against my collarbone. My hair fell perfectly down my back. As soon as we stepped through the doors, the room seemed to go quiet. People whispered. Next turned. Nikolai Volkov was a man who rarely brought dates to public events. Everyone wanted to know who the stunning, elegant woman on his arm was. I felt completely calm. I did not feel nervous. With Nikolai beside me, I felt invincible. You look breathtaking, Nikolai murmured into my ear, his hand firm on my waist. They cannot take their eyes off you. Let them look, I smiled. We walked through the crowd. Billionaires stepped aside to let us pass. Famous politicians nodded respectfully to Nikolai. He was the undisputed king of the room. We stopped near the grand bar. Nikolai was pulled into a conversation with a prominent city official. I stood by his side, gracefully holding a glass of mineral water. Then I felt a gaze on me. It was a heavy, burning stare. I turned my head slightly. Standing near the buffet table, about 15 feet away, was David. He was wearing a tuxedo that looked just a little too tight for him. Beside him was Amber, his fitness influencer girlfriend. She was wearing a very loud, very bright neon pink dress that looked completely out of place at a formal gala. She was loudly chewing gum and taking selfies on her phone. David looked stressed. He looked older. He looked exhausted. David was holding a glass of red wine. He had been looking around the room, trying to find someone important to talk to, when his eyes landed on me. I saw the exact moment he recognized me. His eyes widened until they looked like they would pop out of his skull. His mouth fell open. He stopped breathing. He took a sharp breath in. Just as he was taking a sip of his wine, the wine went down the wrong pipe. David instantly began to choke. He coughed violently. He choked so hard that his face turned a deep, bright shade of purple. He dropped his wine glass. It shattered on the marble floor, splashing red wine all over Amber's expensive neon pink shoes. "David, what is wrong with you?" Amber screamed, stopping her foot. "You ruined my shoes." David did not even hear her. He was pounding his own chest, coughing, gasping for air. His eyes locked onto me. He looked like he had just seen a ghost. I did not move. I did not panic. I just stood there, looking at him. Nikolai noticed the commotion. He turned his head and looked at David. Then he looked at me. He saw the recognition in my eyes. Nikolai's blue eyes turned ice cold. He instantly realized who this coughing, pathetic man was. This was the man who had discarded me. This was the man who had called me plain water. Nikolai didn't get angry. Instead, a slow, predatory smile spread across his face. He wrapped his large arm tightly around my waist, pulling me firmly against his side. It was a clear, unmistakable declaration of ownership. He looked down at David with absolute contempt. David finally stopped choking. He wiped his mouth with a napkin, trembling. He took a hesitant step toward us, completely ignoring his complaining girlfriend. Anna, David stammered. His voice was high and shaky. Is that really you?" I looked at him. I did not feel anger. I did not feel sadness. I felt absolutely nothing. He was a stranger to me now. "Hello, David," I said. My voice was smooth, calm, and completely steady. What are you doing here?" David gasped, his eyes darting from my diamond necklace to my emerald gown, and finally to the massive, terrifying man holding my waist. You look completely different. Who is this?" Before I could speak, Nikolai stepped forward. He stood at his full height, completely towering over David. The sheer aura of danger radiating from Nikolai made David instantly take a step back, his face drained of all color. "My name is Nikolai Volkov," Nikolai said. His voice was like rolling thunder. It was quiet, but filled the space between them with terrifying weight. "And you are speaking to my woman." David's knees literally shook. He knew the name Volkov. Anyone who read the newspapers or worked in finance knew that name. Nikolai Volkov was a man who could destroy a person's life with a single phone call. He was a man who ruled the city. "The Volkov," David whispered, his voice cracking. He looked at me, his eyes filled with absolute shock, regret, and utter disbelief. "Anna, you are with him?" "She is," Nikolai said smoothly. He raised his hand and gently stroked my cheek. His touch was incredibly tender, a stark contrast to the cold stare he was giving David. "Anna is the most extraordinary woman I have ever met. She is my peace. She is my strength. I understand you used to know her, David. I hear you lack the capacity to appreciate her." David looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. He looked at my dress. He looked at the respect people were giving us. He looked at Amber, who was still whining about her shoes and looking completely cheap compared to the elegance radiating from me. David realized everything in that single moment. He had thrown away a queen for a cheap thrill. He had called a diamond boring, and now that diamond belonged to a king. I didn't know. David stammered, sweating profusely. "Anna, we should talk sometime, for old time's sake." Nikolai stepped closer. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "There will be no talking," Nikolai whispered. The threat in his voice was crystal clear. "You threw away water, David. Remember? Do not drown in it now." Take your girl and get out of my sight before I have my men remove you permanently." David did not hesitate. He did not say another word. He grabbed Amber's arm so hard she yelled, turned around, and practically ran out of the ballroom. He did not look back. He fled like a frightened rabbit. I watched him go. I felt a profound sense of closure. The final piece of my old life was gone, washed away completely. Nikolai turned back to me. The icy look in his eyes vanished, replaced by that warm, soft gaze he reserved only for me. "Are you okay, my love?" he asked softly. I smiled. It was a real, beautiful smile. I reached up and gently adjusted his tie, folding it perfectly, just like I used to. "I am perfect, Nikolai," I said. "In fact, I have never been better." Nikolai laughed, a rich, happy sound. He raised his glass of champagne. "To my beautiful, brilliant, and never boring Anna." We clinked our glasses together. I took a sip of the champagne. David had been right about one thing. Champagne did taste much better than water, especially when you are drinking it with the king of the city.